What if the history of ancient Egypt that we've spent centuries studying is only half the story? What if beneath the polished monuments and the celebrated pharaohs there exists another Egypt, older, stranger, and far more disturbing than anything found in a museum? Not a conspiracy, not a legend fabricated on the internet, but real questions raised by archaeologists, geologists, and historians that remain officially unanswered. This is the Egypt they do not teach in schools. Welcome to Mythic Origins. Egypt has been studied longer than almost any other civilization on Earth. And yet, the more we dig, literally and figuratively, the more we find that doesn't fit the official narrative. We are not talking about aliens or magic. We are talking about evidence, geological data, carbon dating anomalies, suppressed excavations, and records deliberately kept out of mainstream textbooks. In the next 12 minutes, we are going to walk through 7 chapters of Egypt's forbidden history. Each one will leave you questioning what you thought you knew. Keep watching, because the most disturbing revelation comes near the end. And once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. Let's begin with the Sphinx. The official story is clean and simple. The Great Sphinx of Giza was built around 2500 BCE during the reign of Pharaoh Khafre. But in 1991, Boston University geologist Dr. Robert Schoch published a study that sent shockwaves through Egyptology. Schoch examined the erosion patterns on the Sphinx's body, not the head, the body, and found something startling. The erosion was caused by prolonged heavy rainfall. Not desert wind, not sand. Rain. The problem? The Sahara has been a desert for approximately 5,000 to 7,000 years. For the Sphinx to show that level of water erosion on its body, it would need to have been built before the Sahara dried out. That would push its construction back to somewhere between 7,000 and 12,000 years ago, potentially making it one of the oldest known monuments on Earth. This is not a fringe theory. Schoch is a credentialed geologist with peer-reviewed work. The mainstream archaeological community has largely rejected his interpretation, but no one has definitively disproven it. The Sphinx sits in silence, and it may be far, far older than the civilization that supposedly built it. Now let's talk about the Great Pyramid. Not who built it, we know it was the Egyptians, but how. The Great Pyramid of Giza contains an estimated 2.3 million stone blocks. Each one weighs between 2.5 and 80 tons. The structure stands 481 feet tall. It was the tallest man-made structure on Earth for 3,800 years. We know workers built it. We found their villages, their tools, their graffiti, their injuries in their bones. These were skilled, organized laborers, not slaves as the old story goes. That was a myth, but the engineering remains a genuine mystery. Modern engineers with today's technology have run serious simulations on how the pyramid was built. The results are sobering. Even with cranes, lasers, and computers, completing it in Khufu's 23-year reign would require placing one block every 2 minutes, 24 hours a day, for 23 years straight. There are theories: ramps, water lubrication, internal spiral passages. All of them are plausible, none of them are proven. What's deeply uncomfortable is this. We do not fully understand how ancient humans built the most precisely engineered structure in the ancient world. And we may never know. In 1993, a German engineer named Rudolf Gantenbrink sent a small robot called Upwaut 2 into one of the Great Pyramid's narrow internal shafts. The robot climbed 200 feet through the Queen's chamber shaft, a passage barely 8 inches wide until it reached a small stone door. A door with copper handles. Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities immediately halted further exploration. Gantenbrink was barred from continuing his work. For nearly a decade, the door sat unexplored. In 2002, a new robot was sent in. It drilled through the door. Behind it was a small chamber and another door. That second door has never been opened. Official explanations are vague. What's behind it remains unknown. The copper handles suggest function, not decoration. Someone put them there for a reason. The most controlled archaeological site on Earth contains a locked room that no one has opened. If that doesn't make the hair on your neck rise, nothing will. Now we descend into something darker. The ancient Egyptians had a book. Not a book made of paper, carved into the walls of royal tombs. They called it the Amduat, meaning that which is in the afterworld. The Amduat describes in extraordinary detail the journey of the sun through the 12 hours of the night, through what the Egyptians called the Duat, the underworld. It describes creatures of nightmare, gates guarded by serpents, the drowning of enemies in lakes of fire. But scholars who have studied it closely notice something unusual. The Amduat reads less like mythology and more like a technical manual. The geography of the underworld is precise. The entities are named. The timing is exact. Some researchers, and this is a theory, not a consensus, suggest the Amduat may encode knowledge of altered states of consciousness, astronomical observations, or even symbolic maps of something real that the ancient Egyptians understood about death and the human mind. Whatever it truly is, the Amduat was considered so sacred that for centuries it was reserved only for pharaohs. Commoners were forbidden from seeing it, forbidden knowledge, locked in stone in the darkness of royal tombs. And now, the dark truth. Around 1350 BCE, something happened in Egypt that was so threatening to the ruling order that the people who came after tried to erase it from history entirely. A pharaoh came to power who dismantled 3,000 years of religious tradition in a single decade. He closed the temples of Egypt's gods. He declared that there was only one god, the Aten, the solar disk. He changed his own name from Amenhotep to Akhenaten, meaning servant of the Aten. He built an entirely new capital city in the desert, Amarna, and forced Egypt's population to worship a single god for the first time in recorded history. Then he died, and everything that came after was systematic erasure. His successors, including a boy king named Tutankhamun, who was possibly his son, tore down his temples, smashed his statues, carved his name off walls, and removed him from the official list of pharaohs. For 3,000 years, Akhenaten did not exist in the official record. He was only rediscovered in the 19th century. Why does this matter? Because monotheism, the belief in one God, which would later become the foundation of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, appears in the historical record here, in Egypt, before any of those religions existed. Some historians, including Sigmund Freud in his controversial book Moses and Monotheism, theorized that Moses himself may have been an Atenist priest, a follower of the erased religion, who carried the concept of one God out of Egypt. That is a theory. It is disputed. But the questions it raises about the origins of the world's dominant religions are real, and they are not fully answered. 3,000 years of deliberate erasure. One idea that changed the world, and a pharaoh whose name was supposed to disappear forever. There is one more secret buried in Egypt's sand. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus visited Egypt around 450 BCE. He was a man who had seen the Parthenon, the temples of Athens, the wonders of the ancient Mediterranean world. And he wrote that of all the things he had ever seen, nothing compared to the Egyptian Labyrinth. He described it as a structure near Lake Moeris with 3,000 rooms, half underground, half above, filled with carvings, passages, and chambers beyond anything imaginable. He said the priests who showed him through refused to let him enter the underground sections. Those were sacred, they said, and forbidden. Other ancient writers confirmed it. Strabo, Diodorus Siculus, Pliny the Elder. They all described this structure. They agreed it existed. They agreed it was extraordinary. And then it vanished. In 2008, a team of researchers using ground-penetrating radar at a site near the Hawara Pyramid in the Fayum region detected what appeared to be a massive underground structure, roughly matching the ancient descriptions in size and location. The Egyptian government has not permitted further excavation of that specific layer. The labyrinth that ancient Greeks called the greatest architectural achievement in human history has never been found. Or if it has been found, it has not been opened. So why don't they teach this in schools? The honest answer is complicated. Some of it is institutional inertia. Academic fields move slowly. Careers are built on consensus, challenging the timeline of the Sphinx or the official story of Egyptian religion means risking professional reputation. Some of it is politics. Egypt's archaeological sites are national treasures, and the Egyptian government controls access carefully. International tensions, tourism economics, and cultural sovereignty all shape what gets excavated and what gets announced. Some of it is simply that we don't know. And there is a profound discomfort in admitting that about one of the most studied civilizations in history. But here is what we do know. Egypt is older than our textbooks suggest it might be. It contained knowledge we do not fully understand. It was home to at least one revolutionary religious idea that may have shaped the modern world. And beneath its desert floor, there are structures that have never been opened. The sand of Egypt is not just sand, it is a lid, and what's beneath it has barely been touched. 3,000 years ago, Egyptian priests stood in the darkness of sealed tombs and read the Amduat aloud, navigating their dead pharaohs through the 12 hours of night toward resurrection. They believed that forgotten things could return, that what was erased could be remembered, that the sun, no matter how deep it descended into darkness, would always rise again. Egypt was not a civilization that ended. It was a civilization that was buried, and the deepest rooms have not yet been opened. If you want more stories from humanity's forgotten past, subscribe to Mythic Origins. New documentaries drop every week, and we are only getting started.